I was asked to talk on something to do with computers and the gospel, and that is, again, as I was telling Bill, it's like one of my favorite things to do. I usually, like, my eyes usually hurt because I've been staring at a computer screen for too long. That's kind of like my constant cross. I have to try always to work on that. But it's important work, and I wanted to start actually by sharing a story. It's really crazy, I guess, that this is going on, that I was asked to speak about this right now, because something has happened this week that's been kind of crazy. And I wanted to kind of let you know about that, because not to tell stories, but because a lot of what I'm going to talk about really is based on, or is kind of is exemplified, I guess you could say, by what has happened with this stuff. So, as you may or may not know, Planned Parenthood and the Catholic Church are kind of, it's coming to the fore that we don't really get along. And yeah, and it's something that I think probably a lot of people in the pro-life movement have been saying for a long time, but sort of branded as outcasts. People who don't know how to get along with other people, you know, angry, conservative, reactionary, etc., etc. Well, I think now most people are starting to recognize that maybe we were making good points, and that maybe Planned Parenthood is actually evil, and some of the work that that goes on there, and that the whole abortion, contraception, kind of what John Paul II called culture of death, is not reconcilable with Catholicism. And so, anyway, long story short, I follow Planned Parenthood on Twitter. Right? Don't even worry. If you don't know what Twitter is, don't worry about it. If we have time, we can get to Twitter at the end. But anyway, so I follow lots of Catholic, news agencies and lots of different outlets. The great thing about Twitter is it removes the media machine from my news collection. I can turn on Twitter, find all the news that I want to know about, everything that's going on in the world, without having to go to Fox News or MSNBC or NBC. I haven't watched the nightly news since I was in high school. Tom Brokaw and all those guys, I don't care. I don't need them to tell me anymore what's going on in the world. I can find out myself. And so that's one of the great things about the technology. But anyway, so following Planned Parenthood has been really an interesting thing to see how they work. And one of the things that I came across was their president saying, hey, we want everybody out there to submit videos about how you have a say about your body and birth control, and that basically, men can't tell women what to do, and, women's power, and, all this stuff. So me being the sort of person that I am, I decide, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to make my own video. And even though I'm not a woman, and so I did, and this whole idea came to me actually, as with most of the crazy things that I get involved in, when I was in front of the Blessed Sacrament, praying before Mass on Sunday. So I'm all excited. I go home after Mass. I'm in the rectory, in my bedroom, set up the same camera that's back there, $600, with a little wireless microphone thing that I have, and film myself, and I had this speech that I wrote to Cecile Richards, the president of Planned Parenthood, and basically talking about how, Cecile, hi, I'm a Catholic priest, I'm a man, and I know you don't want videos from men, but I'm going to go ahead and do one anyways. And I have a say too, and we have a say. And I talked about how, you have sort of worked to make sure that tens of millions of young people have never had a say, through the work that Planned Parenthood does. And so I went on this kind of thing, and at the end it kind of gets like here, and I ended it with "Here comes the Catholic Church," and the music kind of kicks in a little bit, and it ended with a J.R.R. Tolkien quote, which is like, the board is set, the pieces are now in motion, we've come to it now, the great battle of our age. And then it kind of cuts out, and the music kind of kicks in, and I created this new blog, and people could give their story, and you know, and I did it because I do, as most of the things that I do, for the kids at Ritter. The kids at Ritter that I work with, I've found an amazing phenomenon, and this will be helpful for all of us. If I write something and give it to them, they won't read it. If I film myself reading what I wrote, they will all pass it around. And I mean, I'm not kidding. That's true of the whole generation. Okay, and I'm part of that, I guess, too. I'm much more likely to watch a video than I am to do a write. That's happened a couple times. There was a horrible exorcism movie that came out in the winter. I think it was right before Christmas, and I went to see that, you know, and it was terrible. And I wanted to warn all the kids because they were all talking about it. So I wrote this big thing. Here's why it's bad. Don't go. And I thought, you know what? They're not going to read that. You know, and I've had other things like that before too. I'll get to another example here in a second, but I want to keep going with the Cecile Richards Planned Parenthood video. It has the word that you might hear people use is viral. In terms of what happens is, as people start passing it, their circle of friends, then they pass it to their friends if they really like it, and then it keeps going. And so there's been like hundreds of thousands of people who've seen this video. I did an interview yesterday with Canadian News. Yeah, it's like, well, thank you. The CNN of Canada. This guy calls me. I'm in downtown Indianapolis. I go up to the third floor of the Commerce Building. They have a thing set up there for me. Earpiece. All of a sudden, I'm talking to a guy in Canada. He's asking me about it. He's all fired up about Planned Parenthood. And, you know, I say all this. I got an email tonight from a bishop, you know, from other priests. Thank you for saying that. From people in Australia and Texas and everywhere. And it was interesting that I was there when I was doing the interview with the Canada guy. There was another guy, the guy that turned on the camera on the Indianapolis end and was kind of working everything. He works at the Star too, and he was saying, you know, the crazy thing about all this was we were kind of talking. I was looking at his equipment, you know, like with I'm jealous, you know, like just he's kind of giving me the tour of the place and everything. But we were talking, and he said, you know, the crazy thing about it is that with $2,000 of equipment, I can do what movie studios couldn't do 10 years ago, 5 years ago, by myself. And I'm like, you know, and he didn't really know why I was there, you know, and then I was like, you know, that's actually what I'm talking about. I did something with a $600 camera and an 8-year-old computer that freezes up all the time, you know, and I had no idea. And it really hasn't affected me that greatly, the fact that it's being spread around. It's great, you know, thanks be to God that it is and that it's helping people. But I more use that story because I want to reference that in many different ways tonight. I had another thing recently that went that way too. I don't know if you've seen there was a rapper kind of a person who kind of was talking about Jesus and religion and why he loves Jesus but hates religion. And this thing, like that video went viral, 18 million or something like that views, right? And so I decided to make my own video response. And again, had a similar, not the hundreds of thousands that this one has had apparently, but I've learned so much in this year, and I want to share that with other people. I think the days of coming to church, having a program, and then like leaving, and like we spend so much time on programming. And I was talking with another priest that said, I think programming is dying, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. I can set my camera up back there. I'll take it home, and tomorrow or the next day, I'll cut it up, throw it on YouTube in 5 minutes, and anybody who couldn't come is going to see it. You know, that wants to see it. The things are changing, and what does that have to do then with us? Why are we saying that? Because we have to change with that. Jesus says, go and make disciples of all nations. It takes me 5 minutes to do something that people in literally from all 6 continents, I don't think anybody in Antarctica watched it, but I can see a map on Google that tells me where people have watched it from, and it's literally all 6 continents. And so how Peter and Paul would be doing that. You know, sometimes I think we're like, well, yeah, you know, it should be the truth. The truth will win. We don't need technology. You know, Jesus will prevail. Well, He will prevail, but He's also counting on us to use the things that are at our fingertips and that are so easy to use and to do. You can figure out how to, you know, if you're, you know, how to get on Facebook, how to get on Twitter. It literally to start a blog. I know because I just did my second one recently for this whole Planned Parenthood thing. I have one blog that I've been on for about 3 years, 2 years actually, and I have another blog that I just started. It takes 30 seconds. It's easier than signing up for an email to start a blog. Google makes it so that it's like, you know, if you play around with it for 5 minutes, you can figure out the gist of what's going on. And, you know, you can ask a couple people for some help. Hey, have you thought of, you know, and we have the potential to reach people in ways that the apostles could have never imagined. That humanity has not been able to fathom for most of our entire existence. And things have changed so much that I think we're standing on the cusp of, I think, the new evangelization that John Paul II always talked about. He said, you know, we need a new evangelization, a new way to go out and teach and spread the gospel to people. And this is it. This is it. I mean, this communications revolution really is what it is. I think it's as significant, if not more so, than the invention of the telephone, than some of those other, you know, landmark inventions in communication. We are in the midst of that. Now, it's not one specific device this time. It's this whole kind of all of the stuff that's been rolled out the past couple of years. And we have to take advantage. We have to. I think it's really, really, really important. Now, what can we do? How do we do that? What are some basics? First of all, you have to, you know, log in. Get on Facebook. People are always talking about, like, well, I gave up Facebook for Lent. It's like, you don't give up answering your phone for Lent, you know? Like, oh, what are you doing this Lent? Well, I'm not answering phone or taking any mail. Okay. Are you talking to people during Lent? You know, now I get it. I mean, some of the kids and stuff, you know, they get addicted to it's like stupid games on Facebook. Well, okay, yeah, then give up the games. But I mean, it's how people communicate. You know, it was so funny. I was walking down the hall at Ritter this week actually, and I was in the hallway, and there was a class watching my video, and I just thought how ironic this is. Here I am, but they're watching the electronic version of me, you know? But that's what it is. That's what we've come to. And you know, I always tell people too, I believe that most of my ministry at Ritter is electronic to the kids. You know, I mean, I go around, I'm there present. If they want to meet after school, absolutely. We have Mass, the sacraments, confession, all that stuff. But the number one, and we pray, you know, over the loudspeaker in the morning and in the evening. But they have the most interaction with me, and I have the ability to impact them the most, by far, on the internet. You know, I put an article on Facebook. Hey, have you know, this might be a really helpful article for you to check out. Anybody, you know, they'll spread it around, they'll pass it around, and they'll all read it. You're not all of them, but they'll pass it around if it's good. You know, it's just, things have changed so much, and your family and your friends are on it. They're riding the electronic wave. And like anything, sometimes we fear, I think, change. We fear new things. Well, Pope Benedict has gone out and said, time and again, that technology is always morally, his word is morally neutral. It all depends on what you do with it. There is no technology, in terms of, obviously the nuclear bomb or something is bad, but in terms of the technology that we encounter in our everyday life, there is nothing that is in and of itself wrong or evil. Pope Benedict is constantly saying, go, use it, get on there, priests, start blogging. That's why I started blogging. I thought my mom and maybe my grandma would read the blog. I really did, I really mean that. And just this week too, with all the video stuff, 150,000 times the last 2 years, someone has read something on my blog. 150,000. I don't see 150,000 people, I haven't seen 150,000 people at St. Malachy in my entire priesthood. Add all the masses together, it hasn't been 150,000 people, I don't think. Okay, I mean that is mind-boggling. That's where your family, that's where your friends are at. And they're on there. And the question is, are you going there to meet them and to spread the good news to them or not? And I just constantly kind of trying to affirm people and let them know it's safe. Okay, that's the first thing, You're not going to get killed, getting on the internet. It's okay. It's good there. There's a lot of good that we can be doing on the internet and through this sort of electronic evangelization. But we have to dive in, and we have to know that it's okay, that it's good to be there. There's so many things. I wanted to pause here, though, and see, are there questions? I don't want to just talk for 40 minutes and then okay, we'll take the last 2 minutes to answer questions. I wanted to see if there are things that you wanted to ask about that maybe could kind of, because I don't want to, if there's things that are burning in your mind, I wanted to maybe have a chance to answer those.
Well, I'm completely ignorant about all of that. So, first of all, what's the difference between email, blog, and Facebook?
Okay, very.
Why is that they have to be all these three things if you have one?
Right. Good question. It's kind of like, sometimes you start getting different phone lines, and it's really kind of the same thing. So the main things that are out there are, and this will tell you how quick things are moving, okay? Last year, I taught seniors at Ritter. And somebody, I can't remember who it was, somebody came to our class and gave a quick presentation at the end of class to our seniors. And they said, at the end, if you have any questions, feel free to email me. And I literally was standing at the door as our class was leaving, and one of the girls said, "Did you hear him? He said email." Like, that's old. She was saying, can you believe how far behind that person is that they still use email? Okay? So, okay. The difference, though, is, so email is basically, kids don't communicate very much with email. But email is essentially, I can exchange, we all use email, right? We all there? That's why the kids are laughing, right? Because we're all there now. They have to move on once the adults get caught up, So, Facebook is, in many ways, really kind of the thing that has started all of this evolution. I mean, Facebook combines lots of things. You have the ability to basically communicate via, like an email, but you can just do it on Facebook. Okay? Facebook also, though, allows you the opportunity to post whatever you want. Okay, you can say, I'm going to hear Father Hollowell talk tonight at 7:15. and that's it. You press enter, and then anybody who is, maybe you've heard the phrase friend. Anybody who follows you or is your friend who has reached out and connected with you will see when they log on, there's kind of this running ticker of what's going on. And they'll see, okay, she's going to see Father Hollowell tonight. And they'll probably just kind of look at it, and if they're interested, they'll kind of, so it's a way to kind of see what's going on in everybody's life. Okay? Now, it's also very powerful because it allows me to post video on that same ticker or a photo. So for example, my whole family now, I haven't seen an actual picture, like a hard printed out picture, for 10 years. My brother, who's in DC, can follow along with everything though that's going on with my family, because anytime there's new pictures, we post them to Facebook. And then he can get on, when he's on Facebook, he'll see, oh, they posted pictures. Clicks on that, he can look at all the pictures. Okay? I can put my homily up from the weekend on the ticker, then everyone who follows me can, and whenever they're ready, whenever, maybe putting the kids to bed, and then tonight they got, a window of time where they're on the internet. They can watch the homily then. It brings a lot of stuff together. Now, if you've heard of Twitter, really I only mess with Facebook and Twitter, because I think that they each have different things that are good, but I don't think you really, there's now hundreds of other ones, but you don't have to. Twitter takes that Facebook concept and says that that's great, but you only get 140 letters to post. Because what was happening in Facebook is sometimes people will go on diatribes, and your Aunt Susie is posting like 10 times a day, and she keeps blocking then that kind of clutters your timeline, your kind of your ticker of information, and you don't care what Aunt Susie's doing. She's posting about stuff that you don't want to know, or you don't care about. So Twitter kind of basically is nice because it kind of condenses that stuff. And Twitter has some other capabilities. Like on Facebook, for example, the good thing about Twitter, and the reason I use that, is because I can get on Twitter and in 5 minutes know everything that I want to know about that's going on in the world. And that's pretty powerful. Because, yeah, and here's a small difference. On Facebook, it's mostly interaction among people. Okay? I can follow this person and they can, it's really easy to do that. You can figure that out. But we all you follow your family and your friends, and you kind of stay connected that way. Twitter, I can follow LeBron James on Twitter if I want. And LeBron James has no say. He doesn't have to approve me. He doesn't have to say, yeah, I'm his friend. He can just say, sure, or he can't say, it doesn't matter what LeBron James thinks. I can now stalk LeBron James via Twitter. Okay? Now, LeBron James wants that because it's the new way to brag. I've got 10 million people to follow me on Twitter. Okay, among Hollywood stars and athletes, that's now the newest way to establish that you're the best, because you have the most people who care what you say. So, but what I do, I don't follow LeBron James. I follow Catholic News Service, which is the news service for the bishops. I follow a couple bloggers, I follow other news outlets and other news magazines and agencies, such that if there's something that's going on in the world, I'm going to hear about it within 5 minutes on Twitter. It's like Twitter takes all the stuff that's going on in the world, and you can kind of condense it into a quick index at the beginning of a book. Like, hey, this is what's going on really quickly, and summarize it. A blog is basically where I keep a blog going, and it's more like maybe typically what I'll do is type something out for a couple of paragraphs, or put a video on there, so it's basically a way to kind of comment on things, and it's usually lengthier than Facebook. Do you see what I'm saying? So Twitter is really short. Facebook, you're typically writing a little bit longer, and then if you have a blog, you have the chance you're typically going to be writing a little bit more. So it's depending on, you might not start a blog if you don't really have anything unique to say. Or, you know, I'm in the business to constantly be putting things out like that, so it makes sense to have a blog. You know, if I'm not doing something like that, then blogs don't, you wouldn't necessarily get a blog. But that goes, anybody that wants to see my blog, it's like, yeah, it's its own site. Mm-hmm.
The blog is actually sort of posted like a web page.
Yeah.
You just go to a web address in your website, in your browser, put the website in, and it'll take you to the blog. Whereas like Facebook, you have to have that Facebook account, log in to see, and the same thing with Twitter, you have to have a Twitter account.
Mm-hmm.
With this blog, it's completely open to everybody.
Anybody can hop on the blog. It's like any other website. Yeah.
So you've got a lot of people that have followed you in different ways, and it's probably been pretty positive, but I'm sure there's some detractors. Do you get a lot of people jumping on saying, you're crazy, you have a bad viewpoint?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I definitely do. And that's the other good thing about it, is that I leave all that up. Here, with the little story that we've been talking about, this recent video that I did, there have been 1,600 comments posted to that video. So like if you would go watch the video online on YouTube, you can then below there, you can engage and interact with comments. You can leave comments and I can respond to them, or other people can respond. However, 1,600 people have there's been 1,600 comments so far, the last time I looked, which is a ton. And there's a lot of nastiness. I mean, just flat out the F word, all that stuff. You know, a lot of stuff about, you probably abuse children since you're a priest. You know, a lot of, you guys did the Inquisition. You know, how are you now? I get that a lot. It's usually one of those, or the Crusades. I would be Catholic if it weren't for the Crusades. Oh, really? Okay. Had it gone differently 1,000 years ago, you would be Catholic. I gotcha. No, but I leave that up because it's also, the other good thing about going into the internet is that we live in kind of, there's one blog actually that's called the Catholic Bubble. And she's kind of joking about the fact, you hear that phrase, we kind of live in a Catholic bubble. We don't get our views challenged a lot. But I leave it all up so that my kids at Ritter can see this is what's out there. This is the type of stuff that you're going to encounter. Are you ready? The first time I encountered anything hostile to Catholicism was in college when I was like, 19? I had never, and somebody challenged Catholicism. I had no answer. I didn't know anybody did that. I really didn't, because I missed, I wasn't in the email era. I guess it just started when I was in college, right? So certainly there's no Facebook or anything like that. So it's also very important, I think, to be out there, as with the apostles, and going out and spreading the good news, to see what other people, how people think, and to answer that, and to engage in that. I mean, here's what, I did another video 2 years ago. I filmed my classes, just put the camera in the back, record my classes that I teach the seniors at Ritter. And we did 3 classes on homosexuality. They're deeply interested. They want to know, what does the church teach on this? It's really, our kids do a really good job and are really well informed. And so that's a very passionate thing, And so we went into that, and I filmed it, and I threw it on the blog. Hey, if anybody else is curious, this is, other Catholics, this is a question that obviously you can't, we spent 4.5 hours on it. You're not going to hear a homily hopefully that's 4.5 hours, right? Maybe if Varghese gets rolling. But is he here? He was here earlier. Dang, I hope he's not going to watch it on the internet. No, but we're not going to hear that, in 4.5 hours. So I put it out there to help educate other Catholics too. This is a really sensitive subject. It takes a lot of nuance. It takes a lot of explaining. Well, the gay blogosphere, if you will, the group of people who are really actively blogging about homosexual issues, got it, spread it around, bombarded the YouTube site with hate speech, basically. Sent so many emails to Ritter that Ritter had to shut their server down for a while, And then, the great thing about it, this is how God works, I left town for Rome, literally, for spring break, right before it all happened. So I had no idea that this was going on. So we're getting bombarded with all this stuff, And then the Catholic people find out, it gets spreading around like LifeSite News and Lila Rose and all these people about the fact that we're getting bombarded and they're seeing all this stuff for simply teaching what the church teaches. And then the Catholic cavalry comes riding in, and it's like defending it, and it was kind of like my first taste of like being caught in this whole engagement, if you will, the war. Yeah, probably is the best word for it. My point is the way that Planned Parenthood and that gay blogosphere basically works is they get everybody to bombard sites like that. They get everybody instantly to, telling everybody, hey, throw your stuff up here. Because what does it do? If you get 4 people on a YouTube site that are making a lot of noise about something on a video, it gives the impression that half the country is thinking that way. And there was maybe like 40 people that were that were upset with my homosexual, that were leaving stuff, But, and it literally felt this way to me when I was going back through and reading it. I felt like it was me versus the world. Because when you look at it, it's me, and then every comment that's left is from somebody who hates what you're saying. And there's nothing there saying, nice job. And so then, of course, when the Christian Catholics come riding in on the cavalry, then, of course, they start leaving stuff, right? But my point is this. Not only do we have to go out there to spread the good news and to inform ourselves, we have to also let people know that we agree with the good stuff that's going on and that we don't agree with the bad stuff. Sometimes we think, oh gosh, I'd have to get messy leaving a comment, or I'd have to get messy or it would be uncomfortable to speak out against something on the internet. Well, that is going to help decide for many people, one way or the other, if it's good or not. And I was thinking about nobody would, in Nazi Germany, for example, okay, we would, if you were living your Catholicism out to the best of your ability, and you saw something going on that you didn't agree with, that was wrong, we all expect those people to speak out, right? I mean, we would expect you as a Catholic should say something. Not that it would be nice if you said something, that you should say something. And I think the same thing then goes today. The internet is where people are at. And so it's not just nice of us to say things and to go searching for things and to kind of defend that which is good and to also engage the things that are not good. It's not just nice of us to do that. It's imperative, I think, that we do that. Because that is, we call it the public square, for many, many centuries in cultures. It's the town square, and that's where everyone gathered. That's where everyone spoke and exchanged ideas and debated and talked about faith and politics. Well, the new public square is the internet. And that's where, that's where especially the younger generation, they live there. And you can say, good or bad, I wish it wasn't that way, that's horrible, that's terrible. You may be right on some of that, but there's no changing it. I mean, that is where they're at, and that's where the young people are at. And I think that's where we're called to not only spread the good news, but to also help answer questions and engage. I did a blog post recently just kind of saying, with the title of it was just engage. Trying to tell people, let's go, You don't have to make a video, if you don't know how or you don't want to, but get out there, engage, leave comments, digest, see what's going on from multiple different viewpoints and different people's ideas, engage those ideas, and make your voice heard too. You know, make your voice heard. That's what we're called to do. And I think we're kind of behind on the times as Catholics for the most part. I think we're slow to get there, but I think there's a lot of momentum that's being built in that direction, and hopefully more and more Catholics kind of heed that call, I think, to engage the public square. And hopefully you do that too. Other questions or thoughts, comments? Yeah.
This may be kind of a cynical question, but after all the dust settles, do minds change?
Do minds change after all the dust settles? I think as much as ever, I'm hopeful that they do. I don't think.
This is segue to the business of the mandate.
Mm-hmm.
Last night at a pro-life dinner, Monsignor Shable gave us a pep talk on how the Obama administration no trouble he was taking on himself.
Uh-huh.
Well, that's true as far as the bishops are concerned. But the question is, will the bishops have anybody following?
Well, we're trying, I think Catholics.
When the votes are taken, will it show that the bishops have said this is absolutely wrong, it violates our First Amendment rights? Will anybody believe that and vote accordingly?
Oh, I think so.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that, like you said, I don't think we should give in to pessimism, and say that it's not going to make any difference anyways. I always think of I'm a big Lord of the Rings junkie, and it's bad that I hear quotes in my head from Lord of the Rings when I'm in situations. But anyway, I think my approach to the priesthood is very similar, or maybe can be summed up by a great scene in the Lord of the Rings. Gandalf has spent, I'm sure, hopefully you've all seen it. Gandalf, the wizard, spends all of his life fighting evil. Doing everything he can, riding around, getting the people fired up, spreading the good news, telling people what's right from wrong, fighting evil, doing his best. And he gets to the end, and it looks like he's going to get killed. It looks like that it's over, that evil's going to win. And somebody turns to him and he says, I didn't think it would end like this. And he's like, end? This isn't the end. He's like, so here's this guy who's been fighting for good his whole life. But then he also has this understanding the whole time that this isn't the end of things. And I think that that's what we're called to do too. We're called to fight our tails off for good, to spread the good news as long as we're able, and as long as we have that ability to help preach the good news, while at the same time going home at night and saying, I know that good will win. No matter what. I could be in a prison camp. I could be in a prison camp starving to death. I should still think that I did what I was asked. We see that great line in the Bible, well done, my good and faithful servant. I did what I served the Lord, and good will win at the same time. I would say we always have to be cautious against, sort of being all wrapped up into one specific battle. We fight our best. And that's what I'm trying to help people understand. How can we fight more effectively? How can we get out there spreading the good news more effectively? I think that's what we ought to be concerned about. And that's what I always try to concern myself with. Yes. Back behind you first. I'm sorry. Yeah. You're up.
I just want to ask you, Todd, have you responded to the negative comments in your blog?
Absolutely.
Responded back to them?
Yeah, did I turn it off? Hello? Okay, it's dead.
I think it's okay.
Hello? Okay, there it is. All right.
Have you responded to them, and then what's the response back?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really important to respond to them. It's hard to do that charitably, and I sometimes fail. To be completely charitable, I try my best, and I pray before I start answering comments, and that's all I can do, I think. When you're answering like 100 of them, you know, the 5th time when someone calls you a child rapist, it gets hard. But you do the best you can. I think it's really important to answer those questions, answer those comments. Sometimes it's simply pointing out, okay, did you have anything else? Because typically that is the response. Anytime the church is out saying something, if you're standing up on behalf of the church, basically I've realized that you're going to get one of about 3 or 4 answers from people back at you. Priests abuse children. Why are you saying anything? You guys burned witches. Why are you saying anything? You caused the Inquisition. Why are you saying anything? Or you did the Crusades. Why are you saying anything? And then when you point out and you ask them, you come back. I think sometimes we as Catholics are kind of like, oh, the 5th thing is Galileo, right?
Oh, yeah.
You burned, you whatever you did to Galileo. How are you speaking now? And sometimes I think Catholics are kind of like, yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I get that. You know, I think there's a lot of people that kind of, oh, yeah, well, I didn't think about that. And when you come back with something, they're really shocked, typically.
What do you come back?
Oh, you just come back with asking them, okay, what exactly happened? What do you mean, the Inquisition? Can you tell me a little bit more about the Inquisition? Because typically their knowledge of history is been formed by a liberal arts college survey course on Western civilization taught by someone who doesn't like the church. And so they read a paragraph about the Inquisition. Okay? The Inquisition, it has books written on the Inquisition. And I'm not saying that the church was flawless in that. Absolutely not. But there's also a lot of more nuance to it that people don't get. There's a great historian. I recognize that some of the best things that we can do as Catholics is understand church history. And I think that's where a lot of the battle really is, in helping people understand church history. You talk about the Crusades, you know. Well, which crusade? Okay, I didn't think you were going to ask me that, you know. What do you mean? Were there more than one? Yeah, there were 5. Which one were you talking about? You know, they happened over 500 years. You know, what do you mean by the Crusades? You know, and I'm not coming at you arrogantly saying that the church was perfect, but can you tell me a little bit about the historical context? No. Okay. So I think that it's really important to come back to them with that. There's a great church historian. Her name is Régine Pernud. She's from France, but a lot of her stuff's been translated. She's one of my favorite lines about church history. She said, "You can pretty much say whatever you want about the Middle Ages, and be pretty sure no one's going to contradict you." And I think it's really true, you know. And I encounter that a lot on the internet. You know, most people's comebacks are attacking something that happened in the Middle Ages, and they don't actually know anything about it. And when you ask them about it, you know, they don't know. With the priest abuse thing, I get that. I understand that hurt our church's credibility in the public sphere. I mean, that's why it's a scandal. The things that I say to that are, A, do you think that I did? But you know, obviously, then the other things about it, I don't try to. You never try to defend what happened there, obviously, but to try and help people understand a little bit about. You know, I always say, could you tell me, you know, 20 or 30 years ago, maybe even 15 years ago, who did understand exactly what pedophilia was in our country? You know, who did have a good understanding that, in fact, moving people around into a new environment didn't fix that kind of stuff? You know, can you tell me what the percentages are on married men abusing children? You know, things like that. Not to say, oh, well, we're actually okay. You know, but then the other thing is, we also a big thing that I battle that is in line with that is the whole idea that does that mean that the church's message is any less valid? You know, because of somebody doing something wrong. There were lots of bad popes. You know, we fought. You know, they had children outside of, you know, with prostitutes or with whoever. You know, a lot of that stuff. Does that mean that the church's message is flawed, or that it was a person who failed to live out the church's message? I think that's an important distinction that always needs to be made too. Yeah, that's a tough one. You know, you just kind of have to get a couple ideas in your mind about how you're going to handle that. But again, I think it's good to say those kinds of things as opposed... I think what a lot of Catholics do, I know a lot of Catholics are on the internet and they read things. And what we typically do, and even before the internet, we think we did this when priests would say something good in a homily. Mm-hmm. Yes. They would say that to themselves. I agree. That's awesome. Absolutely. You know? But it takes more than that. It takes people getting on there and saying, not only nodding their head in their home, but actually typing in and casting a vote. Saying, I agree with this. This is awesome. That kind of thing. Because public perception is impacted a lot, I think, by the number of people that are out there responding to things. You know, we did this as part of the Planned Parenthood thing. I started a new blog. And it's actually really easy because it's other people writing, not me. And what I asked to do at the end of my video that I made to Planned Parenthood was I said, I'm inviting Catholic people or anybody who wants to write in to tell their story about why they're thankful for their family, their parents choosing life for them or other situations. And I've posted probably 30 of them so far. They've been amazing, you know. People who are going to abort their child and then at the last minute they decided not to, or they've been adopted, or, you know, they were from a huge family, or all these different things, miscarriages, and I mean, just these stories. And it's only like, so far, it's like 30 or 40 stories. But you read comments and you just get the feeling that there's been thousands and thousands of people who visited the site, so for the blog so far. And it just gives you the feeling and the reassurance that this is huge. Even though it's only 30 or 40 people telling their story, that number is enough to get you to feel more confident that there are lots of stories out there like this that I don't know. Whereas if you got on that homosexual video that I made, and it's me versus 40 people who are against what I'm saying, and there's no one else saying, I agree with Father here, or I agree with what's being said, then it gives the impression to a lot of people that he is the only one. That he is the nut. Which I am a nut, but that's a different talk. But yeah. Other questions, sister?
How does this relate to like going to Mass on Sundays, etc.? Do you think there's become a lethargy that people sit back and listen to the homily on the blog?
I don't. I think it increases people coming to Mass. I really do. I think it increases people's desire for more. You get a taste and you want more. And I think that that's what this is. Spreading the good news, you know, if Paul came to a city and would preach, they weren't saying, well, we're going to wait till Paul comes back. You know, that got them going. And it was enough to get them in the door and get started with their faith. And I think that that's what my experience is that most people, it's been a real experience of conversion and deepening their faith. You know, I can put something out there about, I think there's a lot of Catholics don't know that it's, you know, considered wrong to miss Mass on Sunday. You know, put that on the blog though and have a discussion about that, and that changes a lot of people's hearts and understand that. So I'm not worried that by putting my homily online, people are going to miss Mass and just watch it on their computer. Because then I preach about missing Mass, and then they're going to feel... Yeah, in the back.
I deal with high schoolers, people, it's like they're dealing with children younger than that, middle school, or, you know,
Yeah.
underage children, there's some pretty tough issues that we're talking about.
Right.
What's your recommendation
Right.
selective, and I don't want to expose them to all the nastiness, but I
Sure.
think it's nervous to
Yeah.
what's too much and what's enough, and
I have no idea. No. This is funny because they asked me, I just got a call last week if I could come over and teach the 5th graders sex ed here at St. Michael's. And I said, sure, but I'm really nervous because I do that at Ritter all the time. And I basically take the approach that when they're freshmen, it's all on the table. Okay? They've already seen it all online and, videos and everything else. And so basically, I don't have to pull any punches. And that's why I like high school. That's okay, let's talk, let's talk about what the church says. And, and you look at John Paul II stuff, and he's talking a lot about, these same things and getting really in depth with really, sensitive topics. That is a great question. And though I don't know, really, to be honest, where that line is and how best to straddle that line and bring kids up into that slowly, because I'm involved so frequently with people who they're hearing it from me after already having heard it on the radio a different way about 500 times. So I think it's, like you said, I think it's important to be gradual about it. To monitor that, to walk through it with them. I just did a post tonight actually about a book series that the movie's coming out. All the girls and middle school kids are into it, the Hunger Games, and did a post about how to help walk your kids through that. It's really a good book, a good series, and I talked about how I think it's really important. But looking for resources like that to begin to train your young people how to be good consumers of media, I think is really important. And in fact, I want to do some talks with the freshmen on that same topic. How do you responsibly consume and interpret media? How does that all work? So that's about the best I can give you, other than my prayers. So.
Would there be a way of coordinating maybe, I don't know, a forum where the parents could help the other parents?
Oh, I'd say one of the biggest groups of blogging Catholics are Catholic moms who are like homeschooling or who are in that same boat. And so I'm sure there's lots of good stuff out there. I don't read a ton. I see them, I interact with them, I know them, but I don't read a lot about how to raise kids.
Do you read every response you get back?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That takes a lot of time.
Yeah. Kind of. It depends, exactly. That's what my eyes hurt. It depends. I mean, there's not typically, most of the stuff I do doesn't get, this much
I'm
craziness.
caught up in it's a different field. It's not this one. Even though I've got some experience with the Catholic theater, and I've got a couple of answers for it. But at any rate, to a couple of questions. But at any rate, I just got started because we did a Twitter storm with the White House and the lobby group, and so that introduced me. The question is, now you got, if you don't follow them, they don't follow you, and if you're talking about a subject matter that's as broad as what you're talking about or what I'm talking about, how in the world can we? I mean, I guess there's no really satisfying, but there's no possible way that I could read every response that would come back as my following.
Well, I would say about that, among the high school kids, there's this mindset that if somebody follows you on Twitter, so like if I follow LeBron James, that LeBron James should follow me back. And like they consider it rude if you don't follow, like the high school kids consider it rude if you don't follow them back. I ain't following you. That's what I tell them. I mean, I don't tell them that directly, but I don't care about what you're doing at Dairy Queen. Like there's this idea out there among some people that if they follow you on Twitter, you should follow them. Well, LeBron James isn't following you. I mean, you have to understand. I mean, I think the kids kind of don't understand exactly how powerful Twitter is and how to use it right. They're kind of doing it to kind of I think what it is that they kind of, I solely use Twitter as a utility, as something that is useful for me to help me interact with the people that I need to interact with and to get what I need to get out to the world. That's what I use Twitter for. And I think that, so just, I wouldn't have to, don't worry about following people on Twitter that you don't want to follow.
Well, so and you can block. And as a matter of fact, you can, some of you have to report spam.
Are there other questions or things? Yes.
All these issues that are coming up and they're kind of in our face right now and everything's kind of fresh and everybody's up in arms, but how do we keep life when the dust settles and, maybe they get pushed to the back burner? How do you recommend that we, and some of us that aren't on the internet or whatever, how can we kind of keep this going and what can we do like right now and tomorrow and the next day to help keep this, topic at the forefront and share with people who maybe are unaware or
Yeah. I think, hopefully the dust does settle. I'd be surprised if it does. But the other thing that I'll say, too, is that I think right now we have to be preparing ourselves, becoming literate in how to use this technology right now. Peacetime or not. Peacetime or wartime, no matter what, the sense of urgency should be there for us to learn how to become able to pass articles around quickly to our friends and our family. How to pass on, hey, I read this on a blog, here it is, all you got to do is click on it and you can go read it too. That will never stop being important. Even if, with this specific issue, that's hot right now. I mean, even if the president comes out and says, hey, we're taking it all off the table, our bad, we still need, it's not going to go away that I'm still going to need to know how to communicate with people no matter what the next thing is. And so I have to be learning that now, I think, so that I'm ready. Yes?
How aware do you think parents are of what their kids are exposing themselves to? And I ask that because I teach here at St. Michael, and I did I'm currently in a music unit with one of my grades. So I asked them to bring their favorite stuff into play.
Right.
And it's quite interesting in the classroom, listening to all of the variety that they have been exposed to. And I'm just curious from your standpoint,
Yeah.
where you are
Yeah.
as a leader,
Yeah.
and where I am as a teacher,
Right.
what parents think or know.
I don't know I think that most parents don't have a clue in terms of, not in general, but in terms of having a clue in terms of how much their kids know. If any parent comes and says, hey, I'm not sure you should be talking about that with freshmen, I don't literally laugh at them, but I say, let's go talk, I think there's some things you need to know. I think even, I listen to, I turn on the radio to the music station that they listen to about once a month just to kind of hear what's out there. And there's really nothing left that you can sing about. I mean, what they're talking about in their songs, it can't, I'm wondering now, like, what could they because it's always the shock value. Let's do something crazier in this song and let's make something more explicit here. Okay, so your entire song is the F word, or it's about sex. So how can it get worse? Like, I don't think it can. They'll find a way, I guess. But yeah, I think our kids, and it's marketed to them. All the stuff is marketed towards 7th and 8th graders. Trying to get them in then, trying to get them hooked on that, trying to get them to become consumers of that media, and it's shocking. And you got to be. That's the other thing. If parents aren't on the internet, and they're not knowledgeable about how it works, and they don't know how Facebook works, that would be like the equivalent of not just not having a phone. I mean, like, it would be, I can't even think of a good analogy, to be honest. It would be it would be like not knowing where your kids are for 8 hours a day. They leave, they're on the internet, they're in the room, okay, so at least they're not out, but do you have any idea where they're at? You know, in a figurative way. Where in the world are they? And I don't think a lot of parents have any idea where their kids are for 8 hours. They said the average kid is consuming media now for 9 hours a day. That's more than a full-time job. So we got to learn it. We've got to be able to see where in the world are they. Yes, Michael?
In that regard of the excessive consumption of media, do you think that's even the positive stuff, as you said, do you think that's detrimental to our faith and spirituality, as far as like leaving things behind, like the rosary or, you know, spending time with the Blessed Sacrament, and just kind of being with God and not being attached to a device or a screen?
Pope Benedict is very big on that, absolutely. Warning us about that. Again, morally neutral. The computer and whatever, your iPhone, it's all morally neutral. It's about how you use it. I hear people get addicted to Facebook. I don't understand. I get on, check my messages. If I see a good article, I pass it on, and I'm back off again. It's like checking my email, you know. So for me, it's not that hard to get on and get off. It hasn't really affected my prayer life. It hasn't affected my daily rosary or my holy hour or anything like that. It can be, you know, but heck, you know, people can get addicted to pretzels, you know. So, but Pope Benedict is saying, as with anything, he's out there saying, I want you on there, but just like with anything else, you have to monitor yourself. Make sure that it's balanced, that you're still a spiritual person, that you're not. He said with machines, we can rob ourselves of our humanity and become more like the machines than a human person. And that's always, of course, the danger. But I think we still have to heed his call. Just because we're afraid of how we might react to something doesn't mean that we shouldn't charge into the breach. Bill?
Let's not forget the good things that are out there.
Oh, absolutely.
I have a friend here at St. Michael, many of you know her, I won't bring up her name. She has the rosary on her iPhone.
Oh,
Examination of conscience on her iPhone.
Yeah.
A daily missal on her iPhone. You know.
I have
A lot of good stuff there too.
absolutely. That's what I'm saying. We've got to get on there so that we can pass that all around and be knowledgeable about how to take advantage of that stuff. You know, again, a priest can make in 5 minutes, put something on TV that can be watched in China, you know, or Antarctica or Australia or wherever. And so I have more people. I have about 5 or 6 people that come to confession now with their iPhone, and it's an examination of conscience. And I don't think before they had that app that they knew what an examination of conscience was. Now they know. They use it. They tap on the things that they've done, and then they come in. They got the list, and they go to confession. You know, you have the ability to pass to your friend an article by one of my favorite guys is George Weigel. I can send to my friends, hey, here's a great article by George Weigel. I would never in my entire life print it off, 40 copies, fold them, mail them, put the stamps on them. I would never do that. I can do that like that. You know, I mean, it is absolutely, and that's why Pope Benedict is saying, we've got to be out there. We've got to be on there, spreading it around, affirming the things that are good, fighting the things that are not good, and that's our call. So, yes?
In some of your responses that you've gotten from your video posts on YouTube and stuff,
Uh-huh.
do you see the effect of, you know, how some entities within the church that have kind of compromised, how that's affected the laity, that they're not really well informed?
Could you give me an example?
Well, like with the HHS mandate, and here it was all over the media now, 100% of Catholic couples contracept and all this.
Yeah.
Are you seeing that in the responses that you get?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, Yeah, so that's the thing. I mean, that we're battling misinformation all the time. And if you don't even know that it's misinformation, then it's hard to battle it. So you got to be out there knowing that it's misinformation and then battling against it and helping people understand what the real information is. I do think that, too, there are a lot of people who are not informed who hear somebody from the president's camp saying, well, there are lots of Catholic leaders who are on board with what we're doing. Say, no, there's not. There's E.J. Dionne from the Washington Post, who's never agreed with the bishops on anything in his entire journalistic career. There's Sister Carol Keehan, the head of the Catholic Health Association, who's one sister and is also incidentally making $1 million a year. And then there's a group of women religious sisters who have also not agreed with the bishops on anything, fight very hard to have women ordained to the priesthood, disagree with about everything that the bishops have constantly and the church has taught. Those are your three.
Well, and that's
But I'm saying,
is like with Carol Keehan, because I work in a Catholic hospital,
mm-hmm,
and you see that they take these little compromises,
mm-hmm,
working in the healthcare setting.
yeah,
And so, like, those of us that are really don't want them to take those compromises.
right.
Like, my opinion is, when it comes down to the end of this thing, if they don't change the mandate, if the place I work for says, okay, then we're going to cover it, and because that's what the law says,
Mhm.
I'm done with it, because I don't want them to cave. I want them to stand up, even if it means shutting it down.
Right, and I guess what I would say to that is you have right now the ability, if you get on Facebook or Twitter or whatever, and you have a group of people that you are concerned with, okay, and your friends and family, you can send them a paragraph that someone else has written that you found that does a really nice job of summarizing it all very quickly, and you can spread the information, the positive information, to say, hey, this is the real story. And I just want everybody to know that. The video that I made, it wasn't like NBC picked it up. Things get spread around and passed around when people like them. And what happens is this. I'm in this circle of friends. I have like people that follow me on Facebook, and they saw it when I posted it. And they with a click, they send it to their friends. They like it. And then in that group, there's 10 or 15 in those circles. And if you studied, I was a math major, so I'm going to drop some math here, but exponential growth. That's how it happens. And so a quick little explanation on the truth. But again, if we're not there to relay the baton to our circle of friends about the true information and the real stuff and the good, whatever the issue, then the baton gets dropped. And this group of people doesn't know about it. And then their group of friends will never hear about it because they couldn't pass it on. Do you see?
Right.
So I think it's important to be out there spreading the good news and the good information so that it reaches as many people as possible. And it's actually, I would say, it's a duty of Catholics to do that, not just, oh, well, that's nice. He also knows how to use the computer. Like it's an add-on. It's not. It shouldn't be. I think we all need to be out there utilizing that. So, yes.
What would you say are some good places to start, like, for that truth, fighting those statistics and those people, like, where can you find that information? I look at Lightside News for one, and,
Uh-huh.
the Vatican, obviously, things like that, but what are some good sources?
Yeah. So here's what I did. When I first logged on to Twitter, I got a Twitter address, Twitter account about 1.5 years ago. And I went to some people on Twitter and I saw, who are they following? You can click on them and then you can see, okay, this is the list that person follows. This is the list that the bishops follow, or not the bishops, but like their news agency, Catholic News Service, follows 150 people. Oh, well, I like to follow that person. I click. I don't like that person. Whatever. I don't need that. You just go through and you just sort of, and now I'm pretty comfortable. I may still occasionally find somebody, I want to follow them, but mostly I have my group that I want to hear about what's going on from. So again, I think that kind of thing, asking around. I think the more time you spend on there, like for example on my blog, I have off to the side like 5 or 6 other blogs that I follow. So you say, oh, well, I like what Father John's saying. He's spreading the truth around or whatever. I wonder where he goes. Where does he look for news and so forth? And so then you can see that, and you just kind of, I have my routine now. I go to this site, type it in. Okay, there's some stuff. Boom, go to the next site. And I can get that in about 10 minutes. And then I go to Twitter and I get the news feed, and so that between all that and 15 or 20 minutes, I'm caught. I'm caught up on what's going on in the Catholic blogs and also what's the news. So it's just a matter, I think, of kind of, you hear the phrase surfing the net, back when it first was invented, and I think that's kind of what it involves. You just got to play around with it a little bit, and then you get comfortable and you kind of see who is out there. And if you have any questions, let me know. I can send you some suggestions and things like that too. Yep. I know it's late. You guys are great. Yeah. There are no dumb questions.
How long does this take to do all this? I mean, I'm not on Facebook. I'm probably the only person my age not on Facebook. But it just sounds like it's going to take so much time.
It does. It does. It sounds like it's really intimidating, and I appreciate that. And again, that's why I always try to tell people, you go home from here and you turn your computer on, you can have a Facebook account set up in 30 seconds, and you're on Facebook. And you just play around with it for a bit, and you'll figure it out. As much familiarity as I have with technology, I was a little intimidated by Twitter. I was like, gosh, they're going to ask me for my birthday, and they're going to ask for my email address, and they're going to want a blood sample, and all these things. And I was like, it's going to take. I don't have 30 minutes, to do this. And literally, they were like, what's your login name? What name do you want to use to log in? What do you want to use as your password? All right, welcome to Twitter. I'm staring at a screen, and I'm like, oh, okay, this is Twitter. And you play around with it for an hour, and you're fluent in it. I appreciate very much the intimidation factor, and I'm always trying to tell people, don't be intimidated. You can get on there and get rolling in literally 30 seconds.
It's the day-to-day time that I'm concerned about.
It doesn't take that long.
And again, that's what I guess what I'm trying to say too is that I can get on, check it, and get off in 5 minutes. Now you can get addicted. You can go see what your third cousin living in Georgia, what her 10 favorite restaurants are, and look at pictures from her wedding, or you can just say, I'm never going to see her again, and just kind of look for what you're looking for. There's this thing called Facebook stalking. Some people do, like they'll just sit there all day for hours, just kind of clicking on friends and seeing what's going on in their life, and you can get addicted to anything. That's what I always tell people. You can get addicted to anything, and just because you can doesn't mean you shouldn't do it.
It's like baking, set a timer.
Set a timer. I know some people that do that, absolutely. I know everybody, I'm sure it's probably time. What I'll do is just go ahead and call this. We'll end with a prayer, and then if you have anything else that you want to talk about, I'll stick around. And so thank you very much for coming. Let's end with prayer. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. Good and gracious God, we thank you for the gift of your Son, our Lord Jesus Christ. We pray for the continued courage to bring the good news of your Son to all people that we meet in our lives. We thank you for the technology that you continue to allow us to utilize. Help us to embrace that, to use that to spread the gospel literally to all corners of the earth. And we thank you for all that you do for us. And we make this prayer through Christ our Lord. Amen. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.